Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we talk about four different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And so I'm always scouring the globe looking for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, influencers changing the world. So today we have Jake Rosenberg, and he's known as the men's 30-second skin guru, and he's an entrepreneur. So he'll tell you his very inspiring story. We're going to talk about product development, supply chain, digital marketing, and his skincare business. So, Jake, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I know we connected through Podmatch, and it's been great. You have a really interesting story. Tell the audience and listeners about it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I started a men's skincare company because in 2017 I had a ski accident. I used to be, competitive skier here and there, like the NASCAR stuff. Nothing too crazy, but I've been skiing since I was 3. Never had an accident or an issue. So one day I'm going pretty fast, hit some ice, ski comes up, hits me in the face, gives me a little scar on the nose. And so that forced me to dive into skincare and understanding scar reduction treatments, concealer, things like that, stuff that guys don't really know a lot about. So I went to Sephora to try to find these products that were recommended to me. And, it turns out they had 10,000 products or something crazy in every store. So there was no way I was actually going to find what worked for me. So a lot of research figured out that, there were the 5 to 10 products that would really work for guys, but not sold, in feminine packaging. And in a place like Sephora, if the education was just better and the packaging was better, I thought it could be a successful business. I knew I needed it. And so I launched Krete in 2019, and now we're here.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm reading your bio. It's quite interesting. Graduated from Ivy League, Penn, and then econ math major. And which is interesting because one of my friends from high school, or not really friend, but acquaintance, she also got into the skincare product, and I think she sold it a couple years ago, for 500 million or something like that. And
that's great. That's where we're trying to head to. So, there's all these conglomerates like Shiseido, Procter and Gamble, Unilever, and they just don't innovate like they used to. I mean, they have, accelerators and innovation labs, but what oftentimes happens is a new brand will come up and really find product market fit with either new products, a new educational angle, a new demographic, and then they'll be acquired. So, that is eventually, an option for us. My joke is that if we can sell concealer to guys at scale, like someone's going to want to buy us, because that's a pretty hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But, we're doing it. And it's one small correction, math minor.
Oh, math minor.
I know. I don't know. As an engineer type, I don't know. I have to be accurate.
Yeah.
Personnel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And then, so tell us, a lot, I've been traveling, speaking at some conferences, and actually this skincare type startup and these businesses actually are very scalable. And so tell us what sets Krete apart from other skincare lines.
Well, one of the first things is that I came into this industry knowing it was probably going to be kind of a legacy industry. I've dealt with the fashion industry and other companies and done some e-commerce things. So I didn't realize how stuck in the 1980s or 90s that it was from a manufacturing and supply chain standpoint. Formulators take 9 to 12 months to make formulas, even if you give them 95% of the blueprints. It's like, it's kind of mixing a couple things. Yeah, maybe there's heating phases or whatever. So I got very frustrated with those timelines and the costs when I was first starting. So I actually learned chemistry. I taught myself formulating just via Google and YouTube. And actually formulated our first 2 products myself fully. Made hundreds of variations. Took a month or 2, not 9 to 18 months. It was all I was doing. So, that worked out. Now we sold 10,000 plus units of it. And so it's pretty great. But that was one of the interesting things that I decided to do, was make better products, but also make sure that we knew every single ingredient. My philosophy was, anyone can write a compelling ad copy and get you to buy it. The only way you're going to buy it again and again and again is if it's actually good. So, that was one of the first differentiators, is that I actually know every ingredient because I formulated it. That makes our products actually, superior to everybody else's. I'm not just saying it is because I bought it from a contract manufacturer and they had really nice claims and a nice pitch. Like I literally made this the best hyaluronic acid serum on earth.
Yeah.
Other things we do, there's a value equation when you speak to customers.
Yeah.
And it has to be, the aspirational outcome of looking good, looking younger, but everybody can say that. The time and effort it takes to get there, that's where we kind of differentiate. Our tagline is 30-second skincare because I want guys to know that you're not going to be stuck in the bathroom for an hour. Or you're not going to use 10 products in a row. It's like, get this, put it on your face. It takes 30 seconds and you're good.
Yes.
So those are the two main things, is the quality of our products, which I can actually speak to because I, formulated them. And then the fact that we just make sure everything is easy. Our website's easy to navigate. Ordering it is easy. The products are easy to use. There's no accessories. So it's kind of a guy's dream if they want to look good without all the kind of BS of the beauty industry.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting is I'm always interested in new industries. One question is, why is men's skincare so taboo? I didn't really realize that. And how is it different than women's?
There's a thing about it where it's like there's two kind of categories. There's skincare and there's cosmetics. We're not really doing cosmetics. In Japan and Korea right now with K-beauty and J-beauty, as they call it, guys are wearing like lipstick and eyeliner and just all this great stuff. That was never my intention. My intention is concealer is a functional tool where if you have a scar, you have dark circles, you have acne, you can kind of cover it pretty quickly. And then the, skincare, it's like 20 years ago, body wash was seen as, for women only. And now every guy uses it. It's the lazy, easiest thing to do. It's easier than a bar soap. So it's finding out the specific next products that guys should be using, but they either have never heard of, like hyaluronic acid serums. Some have, most have not. Or they were just packaged too femininely forever. For instance, I use NARS's concealer to cover my nose. NARS is, a very, very popular female brand. Their tones or skin tones are dessert flavors, So
Yes.
like my nose tone was, and my skin tone was either custard or creme brulee. And it's like, I just don't really want to be going into a store and asking for the creme brulee concealer and not like, I might be okay with that. Most guys are not. So, there's just an uncomfortableness about it. There's also the lack of education. No one wants to walk into a store like a Sephora that's incredibly intimidating and frankly feel like an idiot. Like I run a skincare company and I don't know half the products they sell in there. Like no idea what they do, no idea if they work. So what hope does a regular guy have? So there's the intimidation factor as well.
What's really interesting is when you talk about product development, do you have to overcome any sort of regulatory hurdles, or are you just how are you packaging it and sourcing it?
So, we now use contract manufacturers because they just have, honestly, they have scalable machinery. But so there's a couple of regulatory categories with the FDA. Ours is in the lowest category, which is called a cosmetic. So that mostly affects how you can make claims. Anything to do with acne or SPF, that starts to become what's called OTC or over the counter. That's higher regulated. So, that has what's called an active ingredient in it. So if you go to CVS and you pick up something like with salicylic acid, you'll see it says active ingredient and inactive ingredient. So those are kind of the regulatory things. Above that is, medical devices and things. Those need approval. The FDA is actually one of the looser organizations in the world for cosmetics. I actually think they're probably a little too, can't believe I'm saying this, they're probably regulated a little too loosely. I'm not an over-regulatory guy, but, in Europe and other places, they have far stricter things. Now, California kind of makes up for that with Prop 65, but it's relatively easy. Don't hurt people with your products and make something that's decent and you have no problem.
Yeah. Interesting. And I guess with supply chain, you kind of have to source where you get it from. And
that was a big consideration. So, there's two main components to sources, the raw materials, and then there's we call them components. That's, if I'm looking at this, it's the box, it's the bottle, it's the pump, it's the labels, it's the heat seal we do on air. So there's all the components, and then separately there's the raw materials. When I was developing this, we wanted to make sure that we used the best ingredients, and they happen to be reasonably readily available. There's one called apple stem cell extract that I have to import from Switzerland. So, I'm hoping that company stays in business. But everything else, there's multiple suppliers and it's reasonably easy to get. From the components, we tried to use as many off-the-shelf things because, for instance, our concealer pens, which are coming, these are from Taiwan. We have them printed. They're going to be really nice, launching in Q1. If there's international conflicts right now in Taiwan, who knows what can happen? So, with our serums, off the shelf, nice label, prints in Oregon, pump. There's a warehouse with 10 million of them 20 minutes away from, we made it so that it's the nicest, but you have to be prepared for the supply chain issues because they will happen. And not just because the world is having supply chain issues, it just, things sell out.
Yeah, and it's quite very. I'm really fascinated because you have a very entrepreneurial journey, and then what's interesting is most of my friends, they went to Ivy Leagues and they did econ and math. They went into finance or Wall Street.
That's a lot of my friends because Penn has Wharton, and so a lot of my friends are Wharton guys. They're all private equity and consulting firms and advisory firms right now. I was more of an engineer. I started a software company out of college. Had a tutoring, I guess it was a tutoring network more than a company. It was a lot of students I was tutoring. Helped make me some money early, in high school and college. And so, I always worked for myself. I've never actually been employed. I've been a contractor as a consultant and things, but I've never actually legally, technically been employed. So, it's been about 10 years of doing my own companies, and a few of them have been pretty successful.
One of my friends, he has a joke. He's in his multi, and he has this shirt. He says that he wears to conferences. And he says, "I am successfully unemployed," which gets a lot of.
Yeah, there's like a in economics it's a backwards bending curve. I can't remember what exactly for. I think it was for if you're earning enough income, then each hour you start caring less and less, because if you're getting $1 million an hour, you don't have to work more than an hour a day. So at some point you actually start working less the more you get paid because you have enough. So, I'm trying to get to that point with Krete. I'm not gonna lie, it's going really well. But right now it's a 24/7, 365 thing.
Yeah.
Which is funny because you think it's all about ultimate freedom as an entrepreneur. So you have to balance, that ultimate freedom idea with also being a complete slave to it 24/7. I like that, but you have to be a little crazy for it.
This is one just off the cuff question. Degree in econ in math. A lot of people are going into like crypto and blockchain. Is that you were in your radar?
I had 2 businesses in that. I had a fund in that years ago, and I can't say a lot about it because I sold it and then signed some NDAs, but I had a shoe that mined Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We launched a shoe company. So it was an interesting experiment to try to launch like a crypto brand for who were at the time crypto millionaires who were buying every Balenciaga or whatever, Yeezy thing that popped up. They just had money to spend. So decided to make a like crypto shoe company and sold that to my partner.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I like it. I mean, I can go into negative feelings in the space as much as I can my positive feelings. If anyone's listening, just be careful. There's a lot of scams in that space. A lot of them.
Yeah, scams, bad actors.
Yeah. Also, there's vulnerabilities. You don't want to send Bitcoin to the wrong, like to an address, and like, oops, you messed up. You put the 2 instead of a 3, and it's gone forever. Like that's a single. In engineering, call that a single point of failure. There's too many single points of failure with the crypto world for it to be practically usable for now.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure the listeners got a real flavor of the not cosmetics, but the skincare products industry, which is quite interesting. How can people visit you, follow you, contact you?
Oh, our website is krete.club. That's krete.club. That's same thing, krete.club on Instagram. And then I have a founder Instagram that we post some organic stuff just to see if we're going to do that for a marketing angle soon. But krete.club, either the website or the Instagram, and that's great. Yeah.
And for all the listeners out there, Jake's resources will be in the links and show notes. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to check out his website, his socials. I will do that after as well. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to hearing about your future success.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.